Hello and welcome to Habitat Chat. We have another great topic today, and anybody who's not familiar with these Habitat Chats, what I like to do is we're going to do a shorter version for social media, but then we're really going to break this topic down on our website at magnetoutdoors.com. Little button, click Habitat Chat, and you can watch the whole video. So let's get right into this week's topic, and we're going to talk about the split plot system. All right, I called it this. This is not rocket science, but I've been doing it for 20 years. And it's been really, really successful for me. And there's a lot of different reasons that I do it. And I'm really going to break that down and talk about what my split plot system is. I am a firm believer, if I have a quarter-acre size plot or bigger, I love to split that plot into two different sections. And you can see here, here's an example I'll show you here. We'll bust this out. All right, so we're going to go here. You can see this plot here is a section. Then here's a section here. What we have over here is we had a perennial blend over on this side. We had an annual blend on that side. And I'm really going to break down why I do this. But anytime I have a quarter-acre plot, if it's under a quarter-acre, that gets a little bit tedious. But if it's a quarter-acre size plot or bigger, I love to split it into two sections. Just a couple more examples. Let me X out of here. This here is, as you know, I've been doing property consulting for 6 years. I have hundreds of clients. But to just give you an example, this is a map that we came up with and where we wanted all the plots. But you'll see all these plots. We have here we got a split plot. Here we got a split plot. Here we have three sections. This was a much, much bigger plot here. Split plot. Here a split plot. All of them we have in that split plot because they're all quarter-acre size or bigger. But again, just breaking down, this is one of my property clients from this year, and not only do I do it for myself, but I do it for all my clients as well. Oh, that's out of here. Another example, you can see. So this is the plot here, pretty easy to see. And you can see the dividing line. We got a annual blend over here and a perennial blend on that side. Same thing, another plot here. Really easy to see. I don't even know if I need to draw on this, but this plot comes all the way over here. You can see here, got a perennial blend on the one side and an annual on the other. Beautiful, beautiful plot. And again, fairly easy to see the dividing line, but I'll show it to you again. You know, here's the plot that goes all the way. This is about this was like just a little over a half acre. And here, this side, you have a annual blend, and you can see a beautiful perennial plot there with clover and chicory. So again, just breaking down so you visually can see what I'm doing with these plots. So let's break it down. Why am I doing this? And I'm going to get into much more in depth each one of these topics on the Magnet Outdoors site. So if this is a topic that you're interested in, again, go to magnetoutdoors.com, click on the Habitat Chat, and I'm really going to break this down. But why is it that I like to use the split plot system? First of all, anybody who knows me, I'm 100%, I want to kill deer. That's what it's all about for me. And one way to do that is give them the groceries. You know, you don't want to just give, one plot. I want to have a reason for that deer to be there all hunting season long, from the beginning of hunting season all the way to the end of hunting season. So again, it's just really simple concept. Give them the groceries, give them variety, give them something to key on. Anybody who's whitetail hunted long enough, you know that whitetail, they'll key on the acorns, and then they'll be on the apples, and then they'll be on the soybeans, and they'll be on the corn. They move from one thing to the other. So by having multiple things in your plot, you're upping your odds that, man, that deer's going to want to be there at the time when you're there in hunting season. So pretty simple concept, but give them the groceries. All season attraction, right? Here's 3 different trail cameras. Right, and this one was from, looks like early October. Then we move into December, all on the same plots. And we gave them, on one side was an annual blend, other side was a perennial blend. But man, these deer were absolutely, you can see here, digging up the turnips, where here they were eating the leafy greens and the oats, and the the other side is a perennial blend that they were keying on that. So this is just one of my favorite plots. I've killed 2 of my biggest bucks on this plot, and it's a smaller plot, but every year we give those deer the groceries, and we want to keep them there all season long to up our odds. This is a big one, and I tell guys this a lot. We want to take care of our soil, right? And the split plot system, what it does is you have half in a perennial, half in an annual. And you only want to plant like your brassicas for 2 years at the most, and then you want to rotate them into a perennial blend anyway. And so I'm going to get more in depth in this, so guys are like, okay, let me do the math. If you can only have an annual blend for 2 years, then you flip-flop it, and your clover can last for 5 or 6 years, well, the whole plot might be in a perennial plot. That is correct. It's going to be up to you at that point. I have a real hard time disking under a good-looking perennial plot. So a lot of times in that, third, fourth year, I might have the whole plot be in a perennial plot. And I know that goes a little bit against what I was saying with giving the groceries, but it is good for your soil to not be disturbing it, not be disking it every year, not be tilling it. So leaving that food plot in a perennial blend for 2, 3, 4, even 5 years is going to be really good for your soil. And we're going to break that down a little bit more. But that is the gist of why I like the split plot system. And if you're interested, as everybody knows, I do property consulting. Been doing it the last 6 years. I've had hundreds of clients. And if you're interested in talking to me more about taking your property to the next level and doing some of the things I'm talking about here, you can reach out to me at 717-304-2770 or my email at jason@magnetoutdoors.com. And like I said before, for more information on this, here's the habitat chat right up here. We'll break that down for you. All right. We're going to go right here, habitat chat. Click that, and we're going to have this full-length video. I'm going to break down in a lot more in-depth exactly how I'm planning and what I'm doing in the split plot system. So again, Magnet Outdoors, click on habitat chat and check out the rest. And thank you for joining us. So if you're still here with me, all right, so this is the second part, and I'm really going to break down into it. Yeah, that's fine. That can be off. I'm really going to break down what I just talked about with the split plot system, why I do it, and exactly how I do it. So this is just some pictures to demonstrate why I believe it's really important to have attraction not only from the beginning of the season all the way to the end of the season. So these bucks here, these are all early season bucks. This buck was the first day. This buck was the first week. This buck was the first week. This buck was the first week. Just great Pennsylvania bucks. But I believe, those perennial blends, they just will be all over that clover and chicory in the early season. So it's important to not only have the early season and the late season, and I'll show you the next slide, and this is why it's important to have late season attraction. This is my biggest buck ever. It was shot in the third day of rifle season. All the rest of these are bow bucks, but this ended up, now I should say, if you look at this right here, that right there, I hit him the first Monday of season. I was on him early, and he was in a clover and chicory plot. Ended up tracking him down the third day of rifle season. But these other two are bow bucks. This one was this year's buck. It was shot the second to last day of archery season when he started coming back to some of those late season food sources. This one was the last week of season, same thing, was coming back to some of those brassica plots and the late season food sources. So the reason I show those is why I think it's important that you have attraction for all year long, right? You don't want to, I see so many times guys will say, I'm just putting all brassicas in, or I'm doing all this. Man, we really want to up our odds. So again, quarter acre plot or bigger, I love to split it in two and have perennials and annuals on the other side. Okay, so let's get in and break down exactly what I like to do. I'm a huge proponent of diversity and variety. I don't want to just plant one thing. I'm not just going to plant oats or brassicas or whatever. I love to plant blends. And so I'm going to break down some of our blends and what I really like to do. So when we're talking perennial blends, what I like to do is I love to plant a nurse crop. We have a new product coming out. It's going to be available June 1. It's called Sidekick. And you can see here, Sidekick is a blend of specifically designed and tested. We're the first one to come out with a product specifically for nurse crops. And what I mean by nurse crops, and we can break that down some other time, but that's really something you're going to plant with those perennial plots, and it grows quickly, it adds variety, the deer love it, but it's also going to give your perennials a chance to establish. So I'm a big fan of nurse crops. You can see here you have your clover growing, you have your oats and your winter wheat that go up really quick, provide that nurse crop. So I'm a huge proponent. I'm going to go to the next slide. This is our sidekick bag. Again, this is specifically designed, tested, specifically for nurse crops with winter wheat and oats. This is our founders blend. So anytime I'm planting the one side with a perennial blend, just again to add diversity, add variety, also give that clover plot a chance to establish, clover and chicory, give it a chance to establish, take off that browse pressure, I'm going to recommend sidekick, planting a nurse crop with all of your perennial plots, and we do that in all of them. So on that one side, quarter acre plot or bigger, we love to plant a perennial blend. Two of my best bucks, this buck here was shot the first week of season. He was shot specifically in a clover plot with a nurse crop of oats and winter wheat, and this buck here too was also shot in a perennial plot of founders with clover and chicory, and then we had oats as a nurse crop as well. And we feel a lot of guys are out there promoting their oats as a nurse crop. We feel like, okay, oats are great and they do make a great nurse crop, but they tend to burn out the first couple weeks of October. We wanted something else in there to provide year-long attraction, so that's why we added the winter wheat, and it's been fantastic. So again, two of my biggest bucks shot specifically on a plot that had a nurse crop of oats along with the perennial founders of chicory and clover. Late season. Okay, what do I like to do? I love annual blends. So again, we have our perennial side, which is we planted a blend like Founders North, which is clover and chicory with a nurse crop of sidekick. And on the other side, we're going to plant, I love brassicas. Again, I'm from Northwest PA. If you're farther south, you're going to go with more of the leafy green brassicas than maybe the big tubers. But for me, I am a huge fan of brassicas. And I'll tell everybody, if you haven't planted brassicas before, or maybe you planted them once, I'll tell a funny story. The first year I ever planted brassicas, I remember calling the company and saying, hey man, these grew great. I had brassicas this big, but the deer never touched them. They didn't eat them. And they said to me, plant them again. And I said, what do you mean plant them again? The deer don't know what they are. I said, the deer eat bark off of a tree. You're trying to tell me they don't know what a turnip is. And they said, plant it again. I planted it the next year, and my deer figured it out. And once you get deer to figure out what brassicas are, they're absolutely phenomenal to hunt over. And you're going to want to have them for late season. And these are great for the late season, but they like those leafy greens in the early season as well. So it's, for me, what I do in mine is I love to have that perennial on the one side and then a brassica blend on the other. And I'll break down a couple of those. I have this. You can see these deer just tearing up these brassicas. So my favorite blends that I have, Brassica Binge. That is a blend of brassicas and radishes. It's going to do the big tubers. My favorite late season blend, which this isn't a late season blend, it's an early, late. This is a trifecta, which is winter wheat, oats, and brassicas. It's just a phenomenal all year long blend. And then Simply Scatter. Simply Scatter, this is a Simply Scatter plot. And in it, Simply Scatter is my go-to if your pH maybe isn't great. You're still working on, getting it limed. Maybe it's more shaded. It's going to do better for you in less than ideal conditions. So that's why my go-to is Simply Scatter. And I shot my biggest buck ever. You saw a little bit ago. He was shot in a Simply Scatter plot. But Trifecta and Brassica Binge are really my picks for that other side of the plot on the other side of the perennials. How the rotation works. So I'm going to break that down. I don't see what my next slide was. Okay. So as you can see here, here's our plot, right? And we got this half in a perennial and this half in an annual blend. So like I'd mentioned before, you only want to plant your annuals for 2 years. So we're going to plant this, maybe it's in Trifecta the 1 year, and then we put Brassica Binge North the next year. Now we have to rotate that. Your clover and your chicory, if you take care of it, it might last you 4 or 5 years. So now you have a decision to make. 2 years is up, time to rotate this into a perennial blend. you can do a couple things. One, you can disc this under and put a brassica blend in or something like that to have the variety. But if it's a really good looking clover plot, I have a lot of problems discing those under sometimes. So you may have the whole plot be in a perennial plot for a year or two. It's really up to you and how long you want to leave that. It's good for the soil, like we said, to not be disking and tilling it. So it's really a personal preference. The other thing that you can do too is, if say you wanted to keep this in a brassica on this side, this really good looking clover, you could come in the spring and plant buckwheat or something like that in the spring, disc that in, that's going to clean that soil up, and then you could plant brassicas again on that end. But again, I get into it's good after a couple years of disking and tilling. I really like to rotate into a perennial like our Founders North, which is clover and chicory. Leave that plot alone for 2, 3, 4 years. Let that soil heal. Just really good for the soil all the way around. So I know guys a lot of times, well, this split system's great, but what do you do in year 3 and year 4 when you're clover? So you'll have a decision to make at that point in time, and you have different options. For me personally, it's different in every one. You know, if this is a beautiful clover plot, like I said, this whole plot might be a chicory and clover plot for a year. But the nice thing, we'll add variety into this section when we plant it, because we'll plant a nurse crop of oats and winter wheat along with that. So that's going to give you a little bit more variety as well. So that is just kind of breaking down how the system works. What do you do after year 2? You'll really have some decisions to make at that point. So just a couple examples. This is a perennial plot that we have here, just a gorgeous clover and chicory plot. And then the other side, this is a trifecta plot. You can see the oats and the brassicas and different things like that. But I love to put one on one side and the perennial blend on the other. This is what I talked a little bit about before. This is buckwheat. Actually, that's Mike. He's filming for me now. But this is a buckwheat. We planted it, and this is a way if you do want to, you want to keep it in an annual blend like brassicas, you could plant buckwheat, disc it in, and plant those brassicas again the next year. And I've done that many times. And buckwheat's a whole different topic. I've become a big fan of planting buckwheat. It's great for the soil. You can see, I have a lot of strip cut soil that we've built up over the years, and buckwheat is phenomenal for that. But it's also good at cleaning up that soil if you wanted to keep planting your brassicas. Okay, so that is it. So like I said before, if you're interested in talking to me about a possible property consult, doing some of the things that we're talking about here, you can reach out to me at my phone number at 717-304-2770 or email me at jason@magnetoutdoors.com. And again, if you want to watch the rest of our Habitat Chats, we put one of these out every week. I hope you like this one. I get a lot of questions about it. But go to magnetoutdoors.com. You got the Habitat Chat button up here, and you can see all of our Habitat Chats. So, again, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. And we have another great topic coming up next week. I'm going to be talking about priorities, how to set the priorities when you're managing your property and what's most important to focus your efforts on. So, again, hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you next week on Habitat Chat.